It was a standard of the so-called yellow journalism dating back as far as the 1890s, even earlier. Make up a story, print it in a gossip column or as a rumor. Then when somebody denies it or someone else reacts to it, suddenly it's a news story. The reaction, the denial. You can put that reaction or denial in the newspaper. And if you really want to play the game, you can then criticize the other newspapers for not covering the story, which in turn forces many of them to cover it. Our third story in the countdown, a second front of the White House attempt to rescue journalism from the hostage situation at Fox and the ghost of William Randolph Hearst. An unnamed White House source telling Politico, quote, "We're doing what we think is important to make sure news is covered as fairly as possible." Offering the Acorn story as an example, Fox News covered it, quote, breathlessly for weeks on end. And then you had a couple of days of breastfeeding from the Washington Post and the New York Times about whether or not they were fast enough on the Acorn story. And it's like, wait a second, guys, let's make sure that we keep perspective on what are the most important stories and what's being driven by a network that has a perspective. Being able to make that point has been important. Meantime, White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs said off camera this morning, quote, "We render opinion based on some of their coverage and the fairness of their coverage." When asked what he thought the difference was between Fox and news networks, his answer, "You and I should watch sometime around 9 or 5 this afternoon." As for how Fox opinion bleeds into its so-called news, you don't have to take the White House's word for it. A non-exhaustive list from the Media Matters website details dozens of instances, including October 1st, America's Newsroom co-host Bill Hemmer advanced a smear that the Department of Education's Safe Schools advisor knew of statutory rape but never reported it. May 6th, America's Newsroom pushed the falsehood that Democrats tried to protect pedophiles by voting in favor of a local law enforcement hate crimes prevention act. April 23rd, Mr. Hemmer claims to keep track of the stimulus money, but in fact was using research lifted almost verbatim from the website of House Republican Whip Eric Cantor. April 15th, America's Newsroom promoted Tea Party organizing on air and online, frequently posting specific information and directing viewers to its website with a list of protest sites. The other examples offered by Media Matters are from Fox's Happening Now live desk special report and the broadcast network's imitation of an actual Sunday news show like Meet the Press, which it calls Fox News Sunday. Let's bring in MSNBC political analyst, CQPolitics.com columnist Craig Crawford, also now co-author of Attack the Messenger with Helen Thomas of Listen Up. No, we got this all screwed up here. He wrote Attack the Messenger.
For you.
No, we have too many words here for me. Co-author with Helen Thomas of Listen Up, Mr. President, everything you always wanted your president to know and do. Hi, Craig.
Hi.
All right. Well, my sense here is the White House reacts viscerally to the carnival funhouse stuff that the Becks and the Hannitys and the O'Reillys do, but what they're worried about in terms of its effect on society is the in-by-the-side door method of mainstreaming a dubious story. Explain that. I mean, I went through it cursorily, but explain the process in better terms than I use and why they'd be worried about it.
Well, back in the old Monica Lewinsky days, I used to call it the baton march of the bogus, where a crazy rumor or story would start in a blog or a gossip rag somewhere on the internet. Then it would move to English newspapers. Then it would move to a tabloid here, and pretty soon it's on the network news. And that happened over and over and over again. And now that cycle seems compressed. It used to take a week or two or more. Now it's a lot quicker.
If a TV outfit covers one story, and the Lewinsky thing is a perfect example, but we're not talking about anything nearly as substantial news-wise, but however trumped up, and they cover it 400 shows in a row, the real news outfits begin to second-guess themselves. That's another point the White House seems to be making that I don't think is getting the attention perhaps it deserves.
What happens is the mainstream media gets hammered being attacked for covering up the story, and so then they feel like they have to do something, and in some cases they will write about how they're not writing about the story and why, or they'll cover the people who are attacking them, and pretty soon the story's in mainstream media and becomes real. I would point out, however, that with a lot of what Fox News does, if the attack is that they're a Republican campaign machine, they sure did a lousy job of it in the last election. We have a deeply Democratic Congress, a Democratic president, and most of the world worships Barack Obama.
Also, the other part about this that I have no credibility to tell anybody not to push back against Fox News. I mean, it would be laughable if I said that for a minute, even if I felt that for a moment. But the active pushback against the media, any media outlets of any kind, has got to be a tightrope. What do you see the negatives as being?
Well, the problem for presidents, I think, when they punch down, take on a lesser foe. I think presidents are better off when they punch up, take on bigger foes. And I think the real problems this White House has are among political leaders, lawmakers on Capitol Hill, Republicans who are in the way and with their legislation, and that they seem to take a kid glove approach to some of those Republicans, and conservative Democrats even on Capitol Hill are in the way on the health reform and other things. That's where their problems lie. It's not Fox. I do think one thing they're concerned about is this midterm election coming up, the congressional elections next year, because with such low turnout in midterm elections, these very feisty, even minority of the voters, the Republicans and conservatives who watch Fox, can have a disproportionate impact. So if Fox is allowed to really whip them up, it could hurt a lot of congressional races for Democrats on the House and Senate side.
What about the bully theory, the being that you learned very early in life that the bully is going to hit you whether or not you hit back, so you might as well hit back?
Right. I think the best defense can be an offense sometime, but as I said, take on somebody at least equal to you in the great arena of politics. I think taking on a cable channel like this, singling out individual hosts, just elevates them, gives them what they want, which is attention, and allows them to continue the circus that they and the almost comic opera of characters, good and bad and villains and so on, that they play on that network, and this White House is helping them feed that storyline.
Yeah, I'm just glad there's somebody helping me do this. Craig Crawford, MSNBC and CQPolitics.com. Thanks, Craig.
Good to be here.